Welcome back to another episode. This is Layla, and today we are discussing woke and broke men. So, I don't know where to start. At first, I thought this was an issue only with women with very, low standards or low self-esteem. And then I realized something. So, I noticed a lot of beautiful, stunning women who are very successful, very creative in what they do, very smart, intelligent. They do have self-esteem, they do have standards, maybe not the highest one when it comes to men, but I'm seeing more and more these women that are absolutely stunning, just, physically, energetically, that are in a relationship with these woke and broke men. And we're going to get into details about why a man can be awakened. He's not really awakened, but he's woke, like he's aware of all this spiritual knowledge, but he's still broke. And we're going to talk about why energetically this is very dangerous for women, because she basically has a leech. She has a man child with her that is not going to be able to support her. So what's going to happen, the dynamic behind this is basically a mother and a child, and it becomes very toxic because of course the man at some point is going to feel emasculated, right? But at the same time, he's not stepping up to be the man that he was born to be. So he's not going to be able to support the divine feminine in situations where, she might need help, support, guidance. So it becomes very toxic. And I've seen so many women get stuck into this cycle. And I swear, it's these women that are absolutely beautiful and successful. These women that just have everything. And I'm like, you could have anyone. Like, you could be and it's not even about the money, but you could, these women could be with billionaires and, men that have the, mental, physical, emotional capacity to take care of them and to support them in the proper way. But at the same time, we have to be a match energetically with that. And so you cannot baby a man, you cannot give a man money and expect a healthy, positive dynamic. Of course, if you're a woman that's absolutely beautiful and you're kind and you're successful and blah, 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 what's going to happen is in your relationships, in the romantic department, you have to, first of all, stop connecting your identity with your career, your success. That's just one way you're making money. But instead of focusing on the money, like when you're talking to a new man, you have to focus on, just the fact that you love being creative, for example. That's more feminine. And that's what's going to attract men that are more masculine. And of course, when you're dealing with a billionaire, like, can you imagine if you're like, yeah, I'm going to give you money? Like, he's going to be so insulted, right? So insulted. So it's a very different dynamic. And for some reason, a lot of celebrities, like female celebrities, get also stuck within that cycle. I see that a lot. And I guess subconsciously it's a form of very low self-esteem, because it's like you don't even think you're worthy of a real man. You know what I'm saying? So, and of course, it's kind of tricky when you're like famous, because it's hard to like hide the fact maybe that you have a lot of money, but you still have to go for relationships where man makes more than you, right? And you cannot, like I said, identify. That's like super masculine, to identify yourself with your salary, with your position, with your career. Like, that's super masculine. So if you always talk about that, like, and I'm not saying to like dim your light and downplay everything, but I'm just saying, within the context of a relationship, if you're constantly like bragging or talking about these things, at some point that man is going to feel like he's in competition with you. So that's when he's going to start chasing younger females, or females that he knows that he can impress, that don't have all those degrees and stuff like that, And I know women are like, well, he shouldn't feel intimidated. Well, no, that's not the context of a romantic relationship. That's not aligned with nature and with our biology. So, and I know it's tricky sometimes, because if you're single, you have to make a living. You know what I'm saying? So, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that you have to bring your career and your accomplishments and your achievements within your romantic relationship, because technically your husband is supposed to support you and love you for who you are. And you were not born with a career. You were not born with a title, a position, a salary. All these things are like man-made, So it's a programming, and I get it. Sometimes we might get stuck into it, but as long as we're aware of it and we know how to really get back into our feminine energy and really take a step back and really allowing the man to pursue us and chase us and make all the plans and the decisions, and really let him step up. And if he's not stepping up, then you can just move on to the next one, because there are so many of them, right? There's an abundance of masculine men, and that's also something that I see all the time. Women are like, where are all these men? Nah, nah, nah. Well, you're not hanging out at the right spots, because I can tell you right away, when you hang out in places where people are old school or they're like gentlemen, those are usually the places that are more upscale in general, of course. But in general, you're going to notice that when you step into those environments, you're going to notice right away that the men are very masculine, and it's like they have this like quiet power about them. Most of them are married, of course, because they know they know the value and the importance of having the right woman next to them, and how it can be actually detrimental to expand your business and your personal ventures. So, and it's not even a discussion, like no one even talks about stuff like that, and that's what's beautiful about it, and even when you go on a date, that's like one of the first like main green flag about a man, is that when you go on a date with a man that's established, that's very successful, he's not going to ask you what you do for your career. He's going to be interested in getting to know you. So he's going to ask for your hobbies, what are some exciting things you've done this week? Like, he's going to be curious about the person, the woman that you are. And that's a clear sign. Men that are usually interested in what you do for work, or you can kind of feel that they're asking a lot of questions about like what you own, and it's going to be subtle, but just the fact that a man would be curious about that is a sign that first of all, you're not his dream girl. He's not afraid to lose you at all, because those are like weird questions to ask, and he's not interested in getting to know you. He's interested about building. He wants to build himself, and he's looking for a woman that's going to be naive enough to help him do that. And once he's going to build himself, he's going to go for his dream girl. That's just the reality of it. So now, the topic of, woke and broke men, what's the link with everything that we've said basically so far? So what happens basically when a man is woke and broke is that he probably stumbled or researched about spirituality a lot. He started maybe reading books, or he, found some information on the internet about, the reality of this realm that we live in, or he might have found some like truth or information like that. But the issue with this type of knowledge, the occult knowledge actually, is that if you open your third eye, because that's what happens when you start reading and researching, right? You start to open your third eye. But if your root chakra is not grounded, which means you're not financially established, you don't own anything, you don't have any assets, you're still worrying about, bills, you're still worrying about, I don't know, anything that's related to having a home, safety, security, stability, like that. Those are all the themes of the root chakra, the basis of life. So if a man does not have all of these things, he's not established, right? He's not disciplined or whatever. And he starts to open his third eye, that's what's going to happen. He's going to be woke and broke. So it's not the true meaning of being an awakened man, because an awakened man technically means that all the chakras have been opened from the ground up, one by one. So he's like rooted, he's grounded into the reality, and he's very emotionally stable, financially stable, mentally stable. So he's, and of course there's like, it's a spectrum, no one is like perfect, of course. But still, there's a huge difference when you talk to a man, for example, that has like 1,000 employees. I've been on dates with men where they have these like, large companies, right? And when you have such a large company, you have also a lot of responsibilities. And for them, like when you talk to them, they're going to say it's 1,000 families that I'm responsible for. So this is why they're very, usually, very regulated emotionally, because they cannot afford to make mistakes, and their reputation is very important. They know that if they lose the company, there's like a lot of people that are going to suffer from that. So they feel maybe a lot of stress as well because of that. But like I said, they're very grounded in general, very rooted. And they also love women that know how to self-regulate their own emotions. They don't want to be with a robot, of course. They don't want to have a woman that has no emotions, but they want a woman that can master her emotions. So usually when you hear men say stuff like, oh, this girl is like drama, or this girl is crazy, that's what, usually I try to stay away from men who talk like that, because that's like the vocabulary of like a 14-year-old boy. Like, what do you mean crazy? Like, she takes substances, like, and doesn't know how to self-regulate herself. Like, that's one way to explain something. But to say someone is crazy is just a weird statement. But yeah, that's what it is. So even, with woke and broke men, I can't just say, oh, they're crazy. It's not that they're crazy. They're emotionally dysregulated. They're like little children that have never learned how to self-regulate. Their mother was probably emotionally neglectful, and because they don't know how to heal that wound, they just hurt all the women that they meet in their life, to make her pay, I guess, in a way, for the suffering that he's been through as a child, And so, this is what happens when you deal with a woke and broke man. They're very emotionally manipulative as well, because they're in survival mode. They really are. Their root chakra is not grounded, so they're constantly in survival mode. They have no impulse control as well. That's why we see a lot of violence sometimes in lower income neighborhood, because a lot of men don't know how to control themselves. They don't know how to control their sexual urges. They don't know how to control their emotions. They're usually slaves to money. So they might have a job that they hate, a boss that they hate, and they don't know how to get out of it. But then they do go sometimes in a spiritual psychosis at some point, because if they continue to read about all this ancient knowledge or occult knowledge, and they're not, anchored into the reality and anchored into the responsibility of being a man and being a provider and a protector, what's going to happen is they're just going to go into this rabbit hole of depression. And if they start using drugs, especially weed, this is something that I've seen a lot. Thankfully, I've never dated men like that. Oh my God. I would have gone absolutely, not just insane, but emotionally dysregulated as well. Because, it would have been a mess. But if they also smoke weed, what happens with these sacred plant medicine, by the way, they open their crown now. So they open their crown, and that's when things usually start to go really down for them. So things just never get better. Maybe they start committing crimes. They just get into this like loop of just things not going well for them. So they just become more bitter, more jealous when they see men or women that have what they want. So of course, the solution here for them, and no one can teach them that. They have to figure it out themselves. You just have, as a woman, you just stay away as far as possible from these types of men, because if you start to teach them or tell them that they have to like get grounded or rooted and start actually to read about Saturn, the Saturn teachings is what really keeps you connected to the 3D reality. But also at the same time, you can start reading and researching without going into it like a psychosis. So yes, you cannot teach them. They have to find this type of information through their own research, and they have to regulate themselves as well through, deep breath work, getting back into nature, staying away from substances, chemicals, just like to really connect with their primal masculine energy. That's how they're going to be able to really get out of that horrible energetic, it's a loop. They just get stuck in it, and of course they start to blame everybody. They usually have a victim mentality as well, scarcity mentality. That's when they start sometimes to steal or become a leech to a feminine woman. They start to ask money from a woman or a man. I don't know, who knows now. But yeah, this is basically the energetic explanation of woke and broke men. And of course, this is the main reason why occult knowledge has to be learned in a certain way, and people have to be initiated into it. And now the initiation is very different from back then, like back from 5,000 years ago, because of course we don't have, we do still have the temples, but you know what I'm saying, like we don't necessarily go physically there. So for example, my mystery school is in the quantum realm, like it's on the internet. So the way, for example, that I initiate people is through payments with money, because money is energy. So payment is a form of initiation. And of course, all my courses are created in a way that's the prices or the initiation fee is connected to the different levels of consciousness. So for example, all my Saturnian teachings, everything about the root, that's something that I teach for free, because I'm like, well, if you're struggling financially, you need to understand why. And I know that sometimes like even $20 is like a big investment if you're like in survival mode, right? So that's why my podcast is all about free knowledge, occult knowledge about the Saturnian root and how society works and how you can get out of poverty. So that's why it's free. But then as we go up in these higher levels of consciousness, and I teach about, the Venusian arts, the Venusian teachings, and anything that's related to the higher heart, and of course, the third eye, the crown, like everything, then the prices go up, because it's a different initiation fee. initiation fee. I can't even talk anymore. All right, that's it. I'm gonna end this episode today on this note. Let me know if you have any suggestions, questions, comments, and I'll see you tomorrow for our next episode.